For about 2 years, I was working on something I never finished. I'm not going to tell you it was a novel or a business plan or a great creative project, because the specifics do not matter as much as what I did with the time. What I will tell you is that I spent 2 years refining something I never released, never shared, never let leave the document on my laptop. I rewrote the opening 17 times. I restructured the whole thing 4 times from scratch. I read books about how to do it better, took notes on the books, reorganized the notes, and then used the reorganization of the notes as a reason not to work on the actual thing. I told myself I was being diligent. I told myself I was being professional. I told myself the work would be ready when it was ready, and that rushing it would be a disservice to what it could eventually become. Meanwhile, 2 years passed. I remember sitting at my desk on a Tuesday evening in November, looking at the document and realizing with a clarity that felt almost physical that I had no idea what the original version had even said. I had edited it so many times, from so many angles, with so many competing frameworks in my head about what good meant, that the thing in front of me bore almost no resemblance to the thing I had started with, and I could not say honestly whether the current version was better. I could not say whether anything I had done in those 2 years of refinement had produced a meaningfully superior result. I had spent 730 days improving something I had never allowed to exist in the world. The cost was not just the 2 years of evenings and weekends that went into that document. The cost was everything I had said no to while I was saying yes to the revision. A friend had asked me twice to collaborate on something with him. I had said I was too busy, too deep in my own work. I had declined 2 opportunities to share early drafts with people who could have given me real feedback because the drafts were not ready. I had not traveled anywhere in 18 months because I was always on the verge of finishing. I had told myself, with complete sincerity, that I would live the life I actually wanted once the work was done, once it was right. Once it deserved to be seen. The work was never done. It was never right. And the life I had promised myself kept not starting. The part I find hardest to admit is that I knew somewhere beneath the rationalizations what was actually happening. I was not being rigorous. I was not a craftsman in pursuit of excellence. I was afraid of putting the real thing into the world and finding out it was not good enough. Afraid of the specific, personal, irreversible verdict that comes when you let something go and the world responds or does not respond. Perfectionism was not a standard I was holding my work to. It was a wall I was hiding behind. The endless refinement was not a path toward releasing the thing. It was an infinitely renewable excuse never to release it at all. I think about all the things I wanted that I did not pursue because they were not guaranteed. The relationship I did not initiate because I could not be certain of the outcome. The creative work I kept private because showing it would require tolerating the possibility of rejection. The conversations I deflected because I did not have a perfectly articulated position ready. I had constructed an entire architecture of postponement around the idea that when I was finally ready, when the conditions were finally right, when the work was finally worthy, then I would begin the life I had in mind. And the architecture was so internally consistent, so dressed up in the language of high standards and professionalism and respect for the craft that I could not see it for what it was. What it was fear. Operating at full volume, dressed as virtue. One evening in January, a different evening from the Tuesday in November, I closed the document and did not open it again. Not because I'd finished it, not because I'd given up on it, but because I had finally understood that waiting for it to be perfect was the same thing as choosing permanently not to live. I sent an early, imperfect version to 3 people I trusted. I told them it was not done. They read it anyway. The feedback they gave me in 48 hours was more useful than anything I had produced in the previous 8 months of solitary revision. Nothing about the work collapsed, nobody confirmed my worst fear, and I had 8 months of my life back. If you are out there and you are holding something, a project, a decision, a conversation, a version of your life in a permanent state of not yet ready, I want you to look honestly at what you are protecting yourself from. Not what you are building toward, what you are protecting yourself from, because the perfectionist and the procrastinator are, in almost every meaningful sense, the same person. They're both choosing the hypothetical future version of the thing over the real present version of the life. The perfectionist just has a more convincing story about why the delay is justified. The standard is not perfection. The standard is honesty and effort. Do that, do the work, bring everything you have to it, and then let it go into the world incomplete. Because everything that has ever mattered was completed by the world receiving it. not by the person who made it refusing to let go. Voltaire wrote that the perfect is the enemy of the good. He was not counseling mediocrity, he was counseling courage, the specific courage it takes to release something real into a world that will judge it, rather than keep it safe in a drawer where nothing can touch it and nothing can grow from it. Ship the imperfect version, have the unresolved conversation, apply for the thing you are not fully qualified for, start the life you have been postponing until conditions improve, because the conditions will not improve on their own, and the postponement has a compounding cost that you are already paying, whether you can see it or not. Perfectionism cost me the life I actually wanted. Not forever, I got most of it back, but it cost me 2 years I will not recover, and a version of myself who was braver and more present and more alive than the one who spent those years in careful, controlled, impeccably justified hiding. Don't let it cost you yours. If you want to join me on my journey and see more videos like that, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.